We'll see how this goes, man. We'll see how this goes. We'll have fun.
Yeah,
Screw it.
let's do it.
You're all ninered up, man. I mean, if there was any guess as to, like who your favorite team is.
I'm not a Niners fan.
No, not
I
at all.
swear.
What's funny is I'm not a Niner fan, and yet I'm wearing a red hat. But this is
Yeah,
not
you are.
a hat. I'm just, out to put it out there. Yes, I'm not a Niner fan. AFC East, AFC East. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, man.
Where's the Waddle jersey at?
Why? I don't have one.
You got to do a little dance before you
I
come
have
in. When you come in with your little Waddle dance.
Tua jersey. I have a Tua jersey and I have an old school Merino jersey. So
Yeah.
if you can guess who my favorite team is, maybe this year I'll get a Waddle jersey because 17 is my favorite number. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
Tannehill used to be Tannehill.
It's all.
And now it's all doing the Waddle, Jalen Waddle.
That was funny because somebody, I think one of my buddies was wearing a Waddle jersey, and someone's like, "Oh man, you're a diehard Tannehill fan, huh?" Obviously, they didn't know, or I don't know.
Okay, so welcome to the F3 podcast, the first episode. This is a podcast that my friend Anastasios and I have been wanting to do for a while, and NFL season is upon us. It is easily my favorite season in sports. The reason why I
Oh
love
yeah.
football so much is because every game matters. You got 17 games, and if you lose one of them, it's already the end of the world. If you start your season off 0-1, like the season's pretty much over, right? So like
Hmm.
I love football for that reason. Basketball, baseball, no shade on them, but you can lose 10 games and it won't matter. But football, like, is just that sport where like, it's like chess almost, right? You got to out and not only out tough your opponent, but you got to outsmart your opponent, et cetera, et cetera. So this show is
Yes.
to talk about anything and everything that has to do with football, our favorite teams like the 49ers, the Miami Dolphins, and talk a little bit about fantasy, which is the expertise, Tossi's expertise, Anastasios's expertise, and then just overall football shenanigans, if you will, right? All right.
Yeah.
Let's get started, man. Let's talk about our first topic, which is NFL season's upon us, man. Like, how excited are you? 2024, 2025 season, man. You guys, Niners on the brink,
Yeah.
championship, all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. A
Yep.
Super Bowl game, right?
I
Like,
was there. I
yeah,
was there. I
at,
experienced
at
the
Allegiant,
highs and the lows.
at Allegiant.
It was like so close in overtime, literally last play of the season. I was like praying and hoping that just someone would run in and intercept the ball on the last play. Niners would win, confetti would drop, but nope. Mahomes put a
that,
touchdown right below where I was sitting too. So I
oh,
got to see that right up close and personal.
I'm sure it was
Like
worth every penny.
it was. Vegas was a good time. I'll give
Yeah,
it that for sure. Vegas was a good time. A lot of stuff going on. It was like the craziest time I've ever been in Vegas for sure. I know we've been to Vegas quite a bit,
I
but
would imagine. Yeah,
it was pretty insane.
I would imagine, dude. I mean, Allegiant Stadium,
Yeah.
brand new stadium in Vegas, hosting the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for this season? Not just for the Niners, but like for the season in general, man. We've got new kickoff rules. We got like a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff that's changing. What are you thinking?
I mean, the kickoffs are kind of cool, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. But I can see how it's kind of fun to change things up a little bit because kickoffs really have become a little bit, everything was like a
It
into
was a
the end
wasted
zone touchback.
play. They weren't doing anything.
Yeah,
It was literally a wasted play. You might as well just hand the team the ball at the 25-yard line and call it a day.
exactly. That's like pretty much what it had become. But like with these new rules, it's like, are they gonna have like how are they gonna do an onside kick? Like it
True.
literally,
Well,
it's
they
gonna
have to
be
announce that they're
onside
doing
kick is pretty
onside.
much done.
That's the thing. They have to like announce that they're doing it.
Exactly.
You
So there's
know,
no onside kick anymore,
you can't really
basically.
like
There's no
surprise.
element of surprise. So that all's gone out the window. So that's an interesting part of the game that's kind of like changed. But like in the game tonight, we're watching like the preseason. Of course, I was watching the Niners game, but they almost returned a touchdown on a kickoff. They got to like the 4 yard line. So
Yeah,
that was pretty good, pretty exciting. So like, if you think about it, like it's almost like a run play at this point because
pretty much.
you just hit it right, you hit the right hole, and you can pretty much break it at this point. So it's gonna add a little bit of excitement. It's be interesting to see. So let's see how it plays out.
It's interesting to me
But
that the second thing that the NFL has taken from the XFL, it's so hilarious to me that the XFL is like this league that kind of comes and goes and doesn't really do anything.
yep, yeah,
That introduced that overhead camera that kind of follow,
yep,
the
that's
team,
right.
and then now
Yeah,
the kickoff rule as well. So that's really
yeah. So it was it's gonna be interesting for
yeah.
sure.
But
We'll
yeah,
see. We'll
I
see.
I'm stoked, right? Like everyone as a Dolphin fan, I always hear people being like, "This is your year, you guys," and I'm like, I don't think it is, man. This is there's a lot of stuff that needs to get fixed from an O-line standpoint. I think Tua has proved that he's a serviceable quarterback in the NFL. I wouldn't call him elite yet. I don't think he's elite, but I think he's on the upward trajectory. I think he's getting there. Obviously, the people that are there, the playmakers that are there, are going to help him. Um, like a Tyreek Hill, which we'll talk about in
Yeah.
fantasy portion of our podcast in a minute. But overall, man, I am approaching this season less as a fan of one team and more as a fan
Hmm.
of the league in general. Because I've spent so many years just following the Dolphins and getting a Sunday ticket just to follow the Dolphins. And then
Yep.
when that December slump happens, I'm like, I don't want to watch football anymore. Like, screw this
You're
season.
like, I'm done.
I'm done. I'm one of those people like, throwing stuff on my TV or whatever. But
Yeah.
like, now I want to approach the season like this season like more holistically and just kind of like appreciate the sport as a whole and not just like, you know, focusing on my team or whatever, right? So it'll be interesting, man.
Yeah, I'm
So many storylines, right? That are going to be fun to see.
definitely, honestly, when you say two is not elite, though, I mean, he's definitely going to be an elite fantasy option. He was last year.
Yeah.
So,
When you
him
have
and Tyreek hooking up.
throw
So, and you got Waddle.
when you can throw 65-yard bombs to Tyreek Hill all day,
Hmm.
then yeah, you're gonna be great in fantasy, right?
Yeah, and he was really good last year. He had some huge games, especially in the beginning of the year. But yeah, when it came to December time, playoff time,
Hmm.
that's when he starts to, take his dip, his
Yes,
yearly dip.
I'm
So
well aware, Tossie. Thank you. I'm well.
you're welcome.
All right, so talk about fantasy. Let's talk fantasy. So you are what I would consider like a fantasy guru. You have been a commissioner for years, and as commissioner, you're like somehow always like the best team in the league. I don't know.
Do it fairly, man.
I
I
don't know
do it
how you
fairly. It's all.
twist the rules for that to happen. But yeah, man. I mean, people's fantasy drafts are coming up. Let's talk
Yep.
what some of your favorite players. Well, maybe we can even go by position. But like
Yeah.
like a good if you're drafting first overall, second overall, like who do you go for? I think the obvious pick might be Christian McCaffrey
Yeah.
or anything like that. But like what
Yeah.
what what are your thoughts as far
I'm
as
not biased at all when it comes to that. Anyway.
I listen, like, as a non-Niner fan, I would agree that McCaffrey is probably the best, the safest bet, right?
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I picked Jonathan Taylor last year, and that was a big mistake, right, on my part. So, like,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts as far as like what fantasy is going to look like this year, as far as the drafts go? Who are
Hmm.
the surefire picks and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I really like McCaffrey at one, and everybody. Then it's kind of like you got a couple other running backs like Brees Hall and Bijan Robinson. I think that are kind of like the round out the top three that I would be looking at, picking up if I have one of those three picks. And then you got a lot of wide receivers in the first round that Tyreek, CeeDee Lamb, if he signs and gets into the Cowboys roster right this year, we'll see. I'm sure they're going to sign him, but
I think they have.
he's yeah.
I think they
I mean, they would not have any type of offense without him. I mean, obviously, their running back situation is kind of strange this year. They got Zeke Elliott back,
are number
and
one.
then they lost Pollard,
Yeah.
and he's in Tennessee now, and so they don't really got a lot of strength on offense as far as like offensive weapons. And CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and then At tight end, they do have Ferguson, who was really good last year. So I think he's going to have another solid year. But as far as with the Cowboys go, I mean, if they don't have CeeDee Lamb, their offense is going to be pretty bad.
Yeah, I think for sure they're gonna get the Lamb deal done. They're gonna have to. This offseason, they haven't done anything. And so this has to be the one thing that I think appeases the fan base, lets people know that at least for the 2024 season, like they're gonna do something, right?
Yeah,
Who knows what happens to Dak next year, but that's a next year problem. That's not a this year.
yeah,
I would agree with you. I think McCaffrey is the easy one, right?
hmm
Also unbiased, I think Tyreek Hill is like a top three pick.
yeah. A
Honestly,
lot of people are picking wide receiver, second. Even for I've seen some drafts where CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill go off the board first before McCaffrey. So
when you're scoring, uh, 1,800 yards of offense, by yourself, not by yourself, but like you are, accumulating 1,800 yards of offense. You're almost at 2,000 yards. You're scoring whatever, 12, 15 touchdowns, whatever it was. I don't remember how many touchdowns he
yeah, he had an insane year last year for sure.
for sure. Like that to me is like, is an pick. What's shocking to me is like on most draft boards, like I'm not seeing Raheem Mostert anywhere. And this dude
Yeah,
for 20 plus touchdowns last year. And it's like, you know,
yeah.
what's going on here?
There's
But I
there's
think
some worry there. So a couple of things about the Dolphins backfield. Like they've got Mostert, they've got Devin Achane coming back,
Jalen
who
right now,
and now exactly the third string running back is could be their best running back that they just drafted. So in Jalen Wright. So we'll see. I mean, he's got speed, he's got, all the keys to being a great running back. So A-Chain's kind of small. Mostert's got the injury history, so you never know. Like in the end of the season, that guy might be carrying the load for them. So we'll see how the season plays out. So I think that's why Mostert has kind of fallen off a little bit in the draft boards. And he's a little bit lower
what are your
this
thoughts?
year than he should be after last year for sure when he was amazing and he
Yeah.
led the league in touchdowns.
I give you two names, three names. What are your thoughts on Justin Jefferson now that the Vikings quarterback situation is
Sam Darnold,
Darnold?
huh? Yeah, he should still have a good season because he's gonna Darnold, he was the backup for the Niners last year. He got in like to one of the games. It was like the Ravens game on Christmas. At the end there, they kind of pulled Purdy, and they actually had a chance. And he kind of like brought him back, and got a touchdown. And then they couldn't kind of convert on the fourth down at the end of the game. But he wasn't bad. He was hitting Ayuk, getting open, and he's got a guy like Justin Jefferson, who's the best receiver essentially in football. One of the top two or three. With CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill. He can still ball out. So he's gonna. Darnold has a good arm. He's gonna look for him. He's gonna throw, and they're probably gonna be down in games, so they're gonna need to throw a lot. So I expect Justin Jefferson to still have a pretty good season.
Second name, Brees Hall. Last
Yeah,
year,
Brees Hall.
supposed to have a lot of promise. Everyone
Yeah,
riding high on Brees Hall. Didn't
yeah.
accumulate too much. There were some splurts here and there, some spurts at
Hmm.
there, some games where he really produced, some games not so much. Healthier Aaron Rodgers, improved offensive
Hmm.
line, way more promise.
Yeah.
What are you thinking for him?
So they're definitely going to be a lot better with Rodgers. With Zach Wilson was a mess, and he stunk, and so now he's not even there. And now they got Rodgers and they got Garrett Wilson, who I expect to have a huge year. Like Rodgers, if anything about Rodgers, he loves his primary receiver, and he's going to throw to Garrett Wilson like all day, every day. And so, with the offense being, better under Rodgers, I expect Brees Hall to get, a lot of touches, and he's going to get a lot out of the backfield and catch the ball and have a big season. So, I have him right now at, number two running back. So that's where I would take him overall in the season. So I think he's going to have a huge year, to be honest.
Last name, Amon Ron. Same.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
does Detroit repeat what they did last year? Does Goff still look
Mhm.
did last year. I mean, where does that team go? What's the ceiling like?
Yeah, I was watching him on receiver, in the Netflix show. Give a little shout out there. Hopefully, get a little kickback, right? From our little podcast. But yeah, I was watching him, and that guy's he's determined, man. He really wants to be great, and he's a gamer. So I expect him to have another big season. Gonna he's gonna ball out because he's like really focused and determined to be one of the best. And he got paid, so that's always a thing, right? So we'll see how he responds to that. See if the motivation's there. But honestly, I think the Lions are here to stay. I think them and the Packers are going to be the top two teams in the North, and they're going to be battling, and I expect it to be another good season for the Lions. They're going to definitely be there at playoff time for sure.
Give me a sleeper pick. Doesn't matter what position it is.
Yeah,
Got like
yeah.
something like that.
So I like Cincinnati. Zach Moss
Okay.
is my sleeper running back this year. So I mean, they're going to have a change of pace back in Chase Brown, which I expect he's going to have a decent season. But Zach Moss, when you looked at last year at Indianapolis, when Jonathan Taylor went down, he had a huge year, huge games, and he played really well. And I expect now that he's the lead back in Cincy, and especially with Joe Burrow, and you got Jamar Chase and T Higgins, and you got all that firepower on offense. I expect that those guys are going to have a big year on offense, and so Zach Moss is going to be a big part of scoring touchdowns, short yardage, kind of like how Mixon was in there. And I think he's my sleeper for this year to be kind of like a top 10 running back essentially by the end of the season.
Okay.
Even though he's getting drafted like in the eighth or ninth round.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Ninth round pick. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna transition from fantasy picks and we're gonna go to uh actual football playoff picks. All right. We
All
haven't even
right.
won and we're just rounding out the end of the preseason. NFL season kicks off in like 16 days, something like that. 16.
Yep.
So let's talk
Getting closer.
getting closer.
2 weeks pretty much
Now.
from
So
tonight.
let's go through who we think is going to make it into the playoffs. 7 teams from the AFC, 7 teams from the NFC. We don't have to predict who's going to go to the Super Bowl, but at least who
Yeah.
the top 7 teams from each conference are going to be. Um, I'll let you kick it off, and then I'll piggyback off of that. So name me
Okay. So,
that they don't necessarily need to be in order. They need to be 1 to 7, but you can name me who you think is going to be, who's going to get the bye at 1, and then who the 2 through 7 are going to be, maybe.
yeah. So I'm going to be biased here.
Yeah.
I do think the Niners are going to bring home the number one seed again. They're looking at their schedule, like, they have got a ton of winnable games and a lot, as far as, as long as they do come out and they play and they get their guys signed like Ayuk and Trent Williams and everybody's healthy, they're going to win a lot of games this year. So I'm predicting them to win
A
at
ton,
least 12 games.
ton of winnable games except for that Week 15 game against Miami.
Yeah.
Just saying, just saying.
Yeah, I think let me see. Yeah, no, I got them as they're going to win that game.
It's in Miami, man. It's that hard.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough game, but yeah, that's one of my kind of like I'll give it on the fence games. One of their harder road games
Heck,
this
man.
year, but
Okay, so that's
yeah,
they're your 1 seed.
that's
Who's
my number one seed. Yeah.
7? You don't have to rank them,
And
but who's the
yeah, so I think the Rams are going to be solid again this year. Got Stafford coming back, and now that they have Puka and Cooper Cup's probably going to be healthier. Kyron Williams was a beast last year, especially in fantasy. He won a lot of people's fantasy leagues because he was basically a waiver wire pickup, and he was just like in the beginning of the season he was great. He was hurt for a couple weeks, and then he came back really strong in the fantasy playoffs. So he helped me win my league. So he was my number one waiver wire pick the first for first week of the season there. I remember I even went to the game and like it was funny like because I was contemplating whether I should start him or not because it was like Cam Akers was there and the morning of the game it was the Niners Rams game in LA. We go to the game and we're seeing Kyron Williams is everywhere, on the, like on the scoreboard. And I was like, oh, this is like a sign, right? And then, suddenly we find out that Cam Akers was not only not like playing, he was basically going to be inactive because he was going to get released. And this is before the game. So we're sitting there in our seats like, what is going on? And the funniest part about it is my buddy who got us the tickets got them from Cam Akers because he was his buddy and he didn't even know it either. So we're sitting in the seats and we're like looking, we're like, oh, like my buddy's like, oh yeah, Cam's gonna say hi, whatever, talk to us. He never comes out. He's like not even on the team anymore. Essentially, we're like, man, what's the luck of that? But essentially, the game ended up going where the Niners and the Rams, they had a really good game that game, and it was close to the end. Niners got a touchdown last second in the end of the half to kind of like make the game, like it was getting a little dicey there. But Kyron Williams had like two touchdowns that game, and it was like, oh man, here we go. And he essentially had a great fantasy season. Obviously, helped a lot of people win their leagues.
Yeah.
So Rams,
You got
another
Niners,
playoff team.
you got Rams. Who are your other five?
Yeah, so I think Green Bay is going to be back. Jordan Love's got only up. He was great last year as his first year as a starter, and they got a ton of young weapons, a ton of young receivers like Wicks and Jade Reed and Christian Watson. So they're gonna be good. The only thing that they lost is Aaron Jones, but they got Josh Jacobs now. So I mean, you're replacing Aaron Jones, who's kind of like their leader, with Josh Jacobs, was the rushing leader a couple of years ago on the Raiders, no less. So, I mean, I think they won't lose much there. So I think their offense is going to be just as good. And, essentially, I do think they're going to be another playoff team. I see them in Detroit battling for the top seed in the North Division. And Detroit is another team that I think will make the playoffs again. So, that's four right now. So we got
So
now
maybe someone from
we
the
got
south.
one more wild card and two more division
Yeah. So
winners.
someone from the south and someone.
Yeah. So Philly is going to win the East this year. They retooled and they're, making moves. They picked up Jahan Dotson, which I don't think is going to be like a big move, but, I, they got some speed downfield, if he kind of turns his, how he's been playing around. And then, they got Saquon. It's going to be,
A huge
that's
pick.
going to be good for them. So they're going to have between him and AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts, they're going to ball out and they're going to be a tough team to beat this year. And so I expect them to be,
Got the Eagles. That's five.
I expect them to win their division. And the team that's on the bubble that I think still get this, probably like the last playoff seed this year is the Cowboys. I mean, they have to get CeeDee Lamb into camp or not. At this point, camp's over essentially, so they got to get him signed so he can play in the first game. But they they still have like the defense that's going to carry them, I think, and they should be able to get enough wins to get them into the playoffs.
And then your final team.
The final team, so that would be the NFC South team.
Yep.
So we got Atlanta, New Orleans,
Carolina and Tampa.
Carolina, and Tampa Bay. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like one of those divisions where it's going to be just a bunch of shit, the crappiest
And
of the
90.
crap, that like if they make it to 500 again, like if that's going to be the team. But I think Tampa has a good team. They've got the receiving weapons with Mike Evans and Godwin and Rashad White had a great season last year. I don't expect him to slow down. A lot of people are like kind of like, you know, kind of pumping the brakes on him to have another good year. But I think he's going to be solid again. I wouldn't be afraid of taking him in fantasy and having him as my number two running back. Like I think he's going to have a good season. Mike Evans is just so solid, man. That guy's always 1,000 yards. Bunch of touchdowns. He's just a beast in the red zone. He's just so huge. So I expect him to have another good season and them to be there and be the team that beats out New Orleans. I think New Orleans is the other team in that division who's going to be good because of their defense. And then also, I that's another I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a big year.
Atlanta looks good, I think.
Yeah. Atlanta looks good too,
Got
but
Cousins,
I
got you've got, potentially Michael Penix coming in there. Maybe
yeah,
gonna
we'll
do
see.
Kyle Pitts
Yeah.
is finally gonna be used, right? You got Bijan Robinson. Like they could surprise, man. The Falcons could
hmm
surprise.
Falcons are definitely a sleeper team that has, with Cousins and, they have a lot of weapons. They've got the receiving core there. They've got Drake London, who's, big dude. And, they've got Bijan Robinson, who's probably going to, like I said, I put him as my third overall running back this year. And I think he's gonna he's gonna make a lot of people happy who draft him. He's gonna be have a huge season.
So you got Niners at one, and then everyone else is Rams, Buccaneers, Packers, Lions, Eagles, Cowboys. Those are your seven.
Those are my seven.
All right. Let me
So
do the
basically same playoff teams as last year. No sleepers coming in.
first. All right, let me do the AFC. Let me do the AFC and then we'll
Yeah,
okay. So I'll start with the unbiasedly the hardest division in the NFL. So I'll start with the AFC East. Um I think I don't know if the Dolphins are winning the division. I don't know if that's the case. I will
yeah.
know week two on Thursday Night Football if they win or lose against the Buffalo Bills. If they beat the Bills, in my opinion, they're winning the division. If they lose to the Bills, they're not winning the division. I
Yeah.
that is we will know by week two, in my opinion, if the Dolphins win the division. Honestly,
That's the pessimistic Dolphins fan
that is
right there for
we
you.
will know by they can win
Week two, it's done.
if
Are
they
they playing in Miami or are they playing in Buffalo?
week two's in Miami. Week two's in Miami. They start the season, if I'm not mistaken, at Jacksonville, and then
Yeah.
they literally 4 days later play Buffalo in Miami, right? So they're both Florida games, right? So they're not necessarily going far or anything like that. But that to me is a hard one-two punch. Not to say that Jacksonville is going to be like, a pushover. They're not, right? Like Jacksonville's got a lot to prove. They had a really crappy end of the season. They've got a lot to
hmm
prove with Trevor Lawrence, and he just got paid, and they want to hit the ground running. They're very excited about this season, so they're not going to be a pushover at all. That's going to be a hard game for the Dolphins to win, and then to go and play basically. To quote a Dolphins beat writer named Omar Kelly, the team who's been taking the Dolphins lunch money for like the last like 7 years in the Buffalo Bills or the past five,
Yeah.
six. Josh Allen owns the Dolphins. Like there's no question.
Yeah.
And
Who's he
so
going to throw to though? Keon Coleman,
half the yard,
Shakir.
half the offensive yards that Buffalo picks up, no joke, is Josh Allen just running for 20 yards
Yeah.
on a QB sneak. Like for whatever reason, Miami's defense can't stop it. But nonetheless, I think the Dolphins and the Bills are both in the playoffs for sure.
Okay.
The teams are in. I do not have faith in the Jets. I don't think they make the playoffs. Um,
Really?
I don't. I
Okay.
think that the Jets have a very talented roster,
Yeah.
but the core of that team, unfortunately, in my opinion, is corroded. I don't think that they have the right basis in there to put together a winning team. It's kind of like when Brett
hmm
Favre went to the Jets, like Brett Favre was an amazing player. that Jets team was a pretty good team. They were like 7-2 at one point. And then they ended the season 9-7, lost to the Dolphins in the last game to get out of the playoffs, and Favre was one and done in New York, right? So we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see. I don't have a huge amount of faith in the Jets. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team, but I don't think they're going to be a 10-win team. My
really.
my opinion.
That is bold.
My opinion.
That is bold.
I think as far as the rest of the teams go, the North, I think the Ravens are an obvious pick. I think the
Yeah.
Bills with a healthy Joe Burrow are an obvious pick. Um,
Mm,
I
okay.
I don't want to bet against it's hard betting against the Steelers, but I don't know what's going on there. I Russ starts the season, doesn't start
No,
the season. You don't
it's
think
going to be Justin Fields. Yeah.
he'll
I think
start?
Justin Fields already beat him out.
That's just incredible, right?
Yeah.
What a story that's become. But I don't I never want to count out the Steelers. The Browns, Kevin Stefanski is an offensive genius, but at this point, I don't think Deshaun Watson is what he used to be.
Yeah.
I think the allure of that team has gone away. And especially with teams like, I think the Texans are making it. I think CJ Stroud is a real deal. I don't think that was a fluke rookie season. And I'm
Nope.
very intrigued by Anthony Richardson and the Colts. I don't know what that's going to look like, but if I were to guess, he's
Hmm.
got a year under his belt now. He rehabbed. He's 1 year smarter. He's learning. He's got some good offensive weapons with him. So
Hmm. So
um from the south,
we're
so I'm saying Bills, Dolphins, Ravens, Bengals, Texans. I'm not sure about the.
five.
I'm saying Chiefs and Chargers, and
Oh yeah,
and
you got to put the Chiefs in
yeah,
there.
Chiefs and Chargers. Chiefs are the one.
Yeah.
Maybe Ravens are the one, but
I think the Chiefs are
Chargers,
number one.
the Chargers, man, I am so envious of Jim Harbaugh coming back to the NFL and teaming up with Justin Herbert.
Well, you don't like your kingpin Miami
I
Beach coach?
love Mike McDaniel. Love him. That guy can produce sound bites left, right, and center.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Jim
And
freaking Harbaugh is someone who's already proved that he can go to the mountaintop multiple times. I mean, he
yeah,
made the Niners relevant
he
instantly.
he did. He
And,
did.
you know, took a team with Alex Smith, who the year prior were decent. They weren't bad, but they were decent and made them relevant. And when Alex Smith went down, brings in no name Kaepernick and turns him into a superstar, right? Like, and
Yep.
that's not a shot at Kaepernick. Kaepernick absolutely earned the praise that he was getting. But my point
Well,
being that, like,
according to Ron Jaworski,
there
he was supposed to be the greatest quarterback of all time.
you go, right? And you know what the falling out between Jim Harbaugh and the 49ers is one of the most fascinating football stories that I've ever
It
witnessed in my life.
really was.
And thankfully for the Niners, it worked out because y'all got, Kyle Shanahan eventually. But,
Yeah.
and lucked into Brock Purdy, which is just, I don't know
You
how.
mean, you mean Jimmy G wasn't the savior? You know, it's interesting because when Jimmy G got traded to the Niners, he was amazing.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he was amazing. He was on an amazing team. He was on a Tom Brady led New England Patriots where
Yeah.
he played only a handful of games. He never played like a full season or anything like that. He played a handful of games. Robert Kraft wanted to anoint him the new starter or whatever. Or no,
Hmm.
Bill Belichick, excuse me. Bill Belichick wanted to anoint him the new starter, and Robert Kraft wasn't having any of it and wanted to keep Brady around, right? This is kind of when Brady and Belichick were button heads. But getting back to the AFC, um, Chargers are my sleeper pick. Chargers are my sleeper pick to really surprise this year. I think they finally get their stuff together because they have all the tools on defense to be an amazing team. They have all the tools on offense to be a pretty badass team. You have a generational quarterback like Justin Herbert, and you get Jim freaking Harbaugh as your head coach.
Yeah.
Um,
They're gonna run the crap out of the ball with Harbaugh.
I
I
I have
mean,
I have
Herbert,
hopes for that team.
Herbert is a good quarterback, but he does make some mistakes, and he's a gunslinger. But they like lost all their weaponry. Like they
Yeah,
don't have Keenan Allen anymore.
I
I mean,
know.
that's a huge loss for
Yeah,
him. Where they
I
got they got Lad McCloskey.
they have
That's who they.
They have Jim Harbaugh, dude. That's all I can sit here and say. Like I have faith that that man can figure it out. The
Yeah,
the
I
Chargers
agree.
the Chargers are my sleeper team. So my seven are Bills,
Okay,
Dolphins, Ravens, Bengals, Texans, Chiefs, Chargers. Those are my
all
seven.
right.
Chiefs getting the one, or the Ravens getting the one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the Bills getting the one or the Dolphins getting the one. But I think that the Chiefs. And I know we didn't say we were going to talk Super Bowl, but a lot of the talk is can the Chiefs three-peat? I don't know. It really depends on who they play in the Super Bowl if they make it. But I think the road to the Super Bowl absolutely goes through Arrowhead. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
in the AFC.
the AFC. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is next level. He is generational next level. Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk. I know that's a sore subject. I apologize.
It really is.
Our last topic of the first episode. I hope you're enjoying so far. By the way, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Join us as we will be doing this. Our plan is to do this once, if not twice a week during the regular season, one before the slot of games on starting from Thursday night and one after
Yep.
the Monday night game, right? So though that's the schedule that we have planned out. And if anything breaking happens in between, one of us will make a video about it and put it on the channel. So make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this. Okay. Last but not least, um, MVP race, right?
Yeah.
Historically,
So,
you know, quarterbacks win this thing. It's a quarterback.
yep. If you look at the odds, it's all quarterbacks. Like, and then you got McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
But, for me, I'm going to go back to, kind of like the picks here. So you said number one pick is the Chiefs or number one team with the bye.
For the AFC, yeah.
I'm for the AFC, I'm going to say Houston Texans. And that's because they're going to have my pick for MVP, CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud's the MVP.
Yeah, that's my pick. That's what I'm sticking with.
I
I think he's going to have a huge fantasy year. Him, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. I know the other one, but it's not coming to me right now. Gosh, man,
You know what's funny is
the
like now that you say that, it reminds me of remember when Cam when he was with Carolina, when Cam Newton was kind of like the darling of the NFL. Like he
yeah,
that to me is kind of like the trajectory that CJ Stroud is on right now.
yeah,
Like
quick.
it's quick and no one
Hmm.
expects, right?
No,
Especially with well, who's the quarterback for Carolina, the first overall pick last year? Bryce something?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. With Bryce Young struggling in Carolina,
Yeah, he's too
him
small.
first overall, and then you get CJ Stroud, rookie head coach, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I mean D'Amico, man, that guy's a baller. We
Baller,
missed him last year on defense for the
sure.
Niners for
A
sure.
rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, and to make the playoffs and
Yeah,
noise is amazing. Yeah, so I can totally see.
make noise in the playoffs too.
I will go out on a limb
So
and I'm gonna say that um as a homer, if Tua can stay healthy
yeah,
and Tyreek can stay healthy,
yeah,
Tyreek Hill becomes a very rare non-quarterback MVP of the league.
very rare wide receiver MVP.
Fortunately for wide receivers, none have ever hoisted the prestigious award, the AP
Exactly.
Valuable Player
So
Award.
that's why we don't know
The
because
last
there's never
position,
been
the last position player, aka non-quarterback, to win the MVP, 2012 Minnesota
Adrian
Vikings,
Peterson.
Adrian Peterson.
Yep. He came back from the torn ACL and he had the most monster 2,000 yard season.
Yeah.
It was insane.
So
And those of us who got him in the second round of their fantasy drafts, like I did,
put
had
that
a
stat first.
great team.
In a season where Tyreek Hill was voted the number one player in the NFL by his peers.
Yeah.
All he has to do is stay healthy, and all Tua has to do is stay healthy. And I think he gets 2,000 yards. I think he gets 2,000 yards
Yeah. You think he's gonna get it this year, huh?
in the playoff game, and I think he wins MVP. I really do. And if it's not him, it's either Patrick Mahomes or Christian McCaffrey. It's like that. That's what I think. I think it's one of those three. I think CJ Stroud is a
Yeah.
fantastic pick though. Like I think that very easily could happen. I don't think Justin Jefferson's in the conversation this year because of it, just by
No.
byproduct who's throwing the
Just
ball.
they're not gonna win enough games.
Yeah, just who's throwing the ball to him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And Sam Darnold.
Yeah. So I mean, and then no shade on Sam Darnold, but still,
He's
yeah.
is Sam Darnold the one that sees ghosts?
Not Kirk
I think
Cousins.
that's who.
Sam
I think
Darnold,
Sam Darnold. Yeah, he's the one that sees ghosts. Sometimes I see ghosts out there.
he's seeing
Forgot about that.
seeing lions and bears and Packers,
Yeah. Oh my.
right? So those that's what I think. So CJ Stroud, I think, is a
Yeah.
very good pick. For me, it's
And
Tyreek.
he's got some good odds. If you look on some of these sites, you can make a good little $100 bet and come back with a couple $1,000 if you win it. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, as thank you, America. Or you're welcome, America. I should
Welcome, America.
say.
Take your money.
You're,
Yeah.
thank you, and you're welcome.
Not financial advice. All right. So the NFL season is what, 2.5 weeks away.
Yeah.
Week one is coming up. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm excited to be doing this podcast. If we could have this kind of conversation on a regular basis, I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. This season.
Definitely.
Be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. So the gentleman in the Niners jersey is Anastasios Fotopoulos, also known as Tossie. Me in the non-Niner hat. I'm wearing a red hat, but a Dolphins fan. My name is Amir Kostovan. This is the F3 podcast, football, fantasy, friends, F yeah, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Hope you enjoyed this. Join us for our next episode that will come out sometime before the season starts. We'll preview week one. We'll talk about
Yep.
all into week one, and then we'll follow that up after Monday night, after Tossie goes to the Monday night game between.
Oh yeah. Maybe we'll do the show from there.
Yeah,
Get a
exactly.
little interview with either Bosa or McCaffrey. They're my guys,
Where are you guys
as
playing?
you can see.
Where are you guys playing in week one?
New York Jets, week one, Monday night.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, man. Hopefully we can get our players.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
haven't seen McCaffrey. We haven't seen Ayuk. We haven't seen Trent Williams. We haven't seen Bosa. We haven't seen Fred Warner. Greenlaw's out with, we've got a lot of stuff going on.
I haven't seen Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
I saw Tua play 5 plays and call it a day. Like this preseason has very much been like, let's just see what the backups can do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And that's what it's become.
But
So the preseason is the first 4 games of the regular season for these guys now, essentially, and that's kind of how it plays out. So that's why I'm not too worried about the week 2 for the Dolphins Bills game. I think it's such a long season, so I think you guys will be good.
I'm
But yeah, so I think for the next show, I'll be giving out, like, I'll be doing some picks too to help everybody out. I'm pretty good at picking games, so we'll see my record. We'll keep track of it, but I'll be doing that all year. I'll give you 3 games.
Okay.
3 games a week. We'll do that.
good.
And so some of you gamblers out there can maybe go with what I think.
Yeah, but we're not responsible if you lose. We're just putting that out there.
You might lose.
Guys. Not play responsibly. All right, folks. Well, again,
but not likely.
hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.
All right.